Good morning, primaries, and happy Sabbath. Welcome to another Sabbath School on YouTube. To start off our lesson this week, I'm going to name an animal, and I want you to guess what it eats. Some of these will be easy. You've heard them since you were very little, and some might be a little more challenging. If you want to pause the video and look up what some of these animals eat, I encourage you to do that. Some of it's really fascinating. So first off, cows. What do cows eat? Cows eat grass. Sharks eat smaller fish. Lions eat other animals. Lamprey. If you don't know what lamprey are, they are like these big worms that live in the ocean, and they have circle-shaped mouths with rows and rows and rows of very sharp teeth. And they attach onto another fish with their circle-shaped rows and rows and rows of other teeth, and they latch on while it's still alive and take a circle-shaped bite into the other fish and suck out its blood. It's really gross, but lamprey gotta do what a lamprey gotta do. What about hippos? Hippos eat grass and sometimes accidentally fish. What about sheep? Sheep eat grass. Sometime when you have some free time, look up the digestive system of a sheep. They have 4 stomachs and it's really interesting. Was it easy or hard to think of the food that these animals eat? Our Bible story today is about Jesus and Peter. Jesus tells Peter to feed and care for his sheep. But who are Jesus' sheep? Jesus wanted to impress something upon Peter. If Peter loved Jesus, he would act like it. He would care for others. Jesus wants us to do the same. Our message today is we serve God when we take care of others. What are some things that Jesus asks us to do? Talk about it with your families and let me know in the comments down below. These are the things that Jesus was talking about with Peter in our story today when he said to feed his sheep. Peter was restless. I'm going fishing, he told the other disciples. At least fishing was doing something. It had been a while since Jesus had been crucified. He had appeared to the disciples twice since his resurrection. It was wonderful to see him and to know that he was alive. Jesus hadn't mentioned that Peter had denied him 3 times, but Peter was still very embarrassed and ashamed of what he had done. He had asked God to forgive him. He may have thought that Jesus would no longer trust him now. How much did the other disciples know about his denial of Jesus? Did they know how sorry he was? Some of the other disciples decided to go fishing with Peter. Just as the sun was going down, they got into Peter's boat and sailed across the water. They stayed out all night, but they caught nothing. What a waste of a night's work, Peter thought. Early in the morning, just as the sun was coming up, they headed for shore, without any fish. As their boat got closer to shore, they noticed a man standing on the beach. The man called out, "Have you caught any fish?" The disciples replied, "No, none at all." The man called out again, "Throw your net on the right side of the boat and you will find some." Perhaps they wanted to please the man, or perhaps they just wanted to try once more. Whatever the reason, they did as the man said. Immediately their nets were so full of fish that they couldn't even haul them into the boat. Then John recognized Jesus and called to Peter, "It is the Lord." Peter was so happy to see Jesus again. They were very close to shore, so Peter decided not to wait. He jumped out of the boat and hurried to Jesus. The others followed him in the boat. When they reached the shore, they found that Jesus had made a fire. He was cooking some fish for them to eat together. After they enjoyed the fish and some bread, Jesus turned to Peter and said, "Do you love me more than these?" Peter immediately answered, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus looked into Peter's eyes and said quietly, "Feed my lambs." Again, Jesus asked Peter if he loved him. "Peter, do you love me?" And Peter replied, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Again, Jesus said, "Take care of my sheep." A 3rd time, Jesus asked Peter, "Peter, do you love me?" Peter didn't know what to think. Perhaps he wondered if Jesus didn't believe him. And why did Jesus ask that question 3 times? Was it because Peter had denied Jesus 3 times? Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him 3 times. With a heavy heart, Peter answered, "Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you." Again, Jesus said, "Feed my sheep." Finally, Jesus said to Peter, "Follow me." Peter must have been relieved to realize that Jesus had forgiven him. He knew now that Jesus still wanted him to follow him. Jesus asked Peter these questions while the other disciples watched. He wanted them to know that he had forgiven Peter. Jesus also wanted to teach Peter a lesson in patience, sympathy, and forgiveness. Peter would need to be patient, sympathetic, and forgiving as he would care for the many new believers of Jesus in the future. Jesus also wanted us to know that there is only one thing we must do to follow and serve him: love him with all our hearts. And when we truly love Jesus, we will want to take care of others too. If you don't have a Bible nearby, why don't you pause the video and go get one, or pull up a Bible on your computer or on a phone. We're going to read 1 Corinthians 13, verses 1 through 3 together. 1 Corinthians 13, verses 1 through 3 says, "Though I speak with the tongues of men or of angels, but have not love, I have become sounding brass or a clanging cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, but have not love, it profits me nothing." I'm going to read a few scenarios out of the Teacher's Quarterly, and after I read them, pause the video to discuss with your family if this is a situation where the people were feeding the sheep or being a clanging cymbal. Alright, scenario 1. Hunter goes to Sabbath school every week, and his family has worship with him almost every night. Hunter notices the driveway of the neighbors next door is scattered with old newspapers the neighbor hasn't picked up in several days. Hunter picks them up and piles them on the porch. Is Hunter being a clanging cymbal or feeding the sheep? Sabrina attends an Adventist school where she is in the 3rd grade. Bible is her favorite subject, and she always gets an A in it. A new student comes in the middle of the year. He has never been in school before because his family homeschooled with him. Sabrina makes fun of him because he is unfamiliar with the school schedule and he doesn't know how to play some of the games they play during recess. Is Sabrina feeding the sheep or being a clanging cymbal? Scenario 3. Adam says he is a Christian and loves Jesus. His little brother Eric wants to play with Adam and his older friends. Adam's friends tell Eric to go home and leave them alone. Adam sticks up for Eric even though his friends say they don't want Eric around. Adam goes home with Eric and plays with him for a little while. So is Adam feeding the sheep or being a clanging cymbal? Melanie likes to help her Sabbath school teacher greet visitors at the door and collect the offering. But at home on Sunday, she doesn't want to help her family clean the house or do yard work. She whines and complains and doesn't do her best. Is Melanie feeding the sheep or being a clanging cymbal? Jonah knows his memory verse every week in Sabbath school. He sits quietly in church and listens to the sermon. He also loves to go swimming at the local pool during the summer. One day he's playing water polo with a few other boys and his team is losing. Jonah gets mad and pushes one of the boys under the water. Was Jonah feeding the sheep or was Jonah being a clanging cymbal? How could you tell if the people in the stories had Jesus in their heart? Is it enough just to say that you love Jesus? There's a saying that actions speak louder than words. And it's true about having Jesus in our hearts too. If we say he's in our heart, but we don't act in the loving way that Jesus would want us to, it means nothing to those around us. When you give Jesus your whole heart, he will lead you to do things for him. One of those things is to help take care of others. Let's remember to look for ways to help others this week. I hope you enjoyed the Sabbath school lesson as much as I did. I hope to see you soon in church, but until then, back here on YouTube. Don't forget to check the description box for the links to the primary treasure. If you want to be notified of new videos from this channel, hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. Bye!